Hello crafters. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I make this Belle keychain. Okay. But before I let you guys start the video, I wanted to make a quick announcement that I'm going to be starting this. Create This Book by Mariah Elizabeth, and I'm pretty sure that 99% of you already know who she is, but if you don't, I'm going to link her playlist where she works on this book. She is a YouTuber and she created this book herself, but I just found her on YouTube like a couple of weeks ago, and I've just been binge watching her ever since. It's a really cool book. I cannot wait to get started in it. That way you guys aren't just watching me make shrink plastic pieces. I'll be working in this book, and I have a few other things planned as well. So I recently found Mariah about 2 weeks ago, maybe even just 1 week ago, and I've just binged on so many of her videos. I was trying not to watch the Create This Book playlist, but yeah, I didn't want any spoilers. I wanted to try my best to come up with my own ideas, and yeah, that didn't happen. I just started watching a bunch of them, and it's just really fun to see others create, to see how their minds work. And she explains what she did, and some of them she explains how she did certain things. And she actually has like this whole introduction thing for Create This Book, like a before you buy it, watch this kind of thing. The book did come out in 2015, but enough of that. You guys can see that if you want to in her video. I'll link that below, like her very first one. But back to my video. On the right hand side, you see a little piece of paper where I was swatching the browns just to see which shades I wanted to use. And I will do this for all of my pieces. I want to make sure that I have the right colors. Now, occasionally I'll actually color in my drawing like I did with Belle, and that way I can just focus on coloring and not have to look up what color goes where, or having to remember what shade were her eyes, or you know, stuff like that. It makes it easier to not have to like continuously go back and forth. But sometimes I will, just like with the Yoshi or Angelica, as you're gonna see in a future video, I did just leave the outline there and then just added the color once I started coloring in with the shrink plastic. The reason I did this, it's because I used to post these to my Instagram as well, so I wanted the drawing to look nicer too. So I would color it in sometimes, but I haven't done that in so long, so yeah, it's just up to you if you want to do that. I don't have a copy or like any clips of myself drawing Belle, because I did this maybe like a year ago. I had the idea to draw Belle from the movie, obviously the animated version, where Gaston is about to propose to her and he comes to her door and knocks on the door, and she looks through the peephole and she just makes this ugh face, and I think that that's just super funny, and I really wanted to create a pair of keychains. So I actually did the pair, but Gaston's head came out larger than Belle's upper body, like what I drew, and it just looked weird together, but it was still funny. I actually sold Gaston and I kept Belle until I decided to give her away to this lady on Instagram, and I'll have her listed somewhere. Yeah, I gave it away to her. I just admire her so much. I love her work, and I just wanted her to have it because I knew that she'd appreciate it. So the way I color my pieces, I try to do some layering. So I'll do like a light peach, and then I'll do like a mid-tone peach for any shadows, and then a tan for like the darker parts of the shadows on her face, so like under her I don't know, her hair, her bangs. And then I try to do like this rosy color on her cheeks. And that's usually how I do. Whenever I do characters, I'll try to do that. I'll try to do at least 3 colors, not too much detail. I feel like it takes long enough to color on shrink plastic. You like constantly have to stop to sharpen your pencils because, I mean, you're coloring on a piece of plastic that has been sanded. So, of course, your pencils are gonna just kind of like, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Your pencils are just gonna waste away real fast and you're gonna have to continuously sharpen them, especially to do like thin little places like her eyes or her fingertips or the inside of her mouth, that little bitty black line. That was kind of hard. Let's see. Another thing that I've learned over time is to use a black marker for any black outlines. So like the inside of her eyes, sometimes I'll use colored pencil just depending on how bold I'm feeling, but for the most part I try to use a really thin marker that I found at, I think it was Michael's, and I'll put the link in the description as to the marker that I use. It was advertised as being a marker that can be used on vellum, and I have vellum paper. I don't know if that's what it means, but the vellum paper almost feels like plastic paper, like it's not like an actual piece of scrapbook paper. So if you don't know what vellum is, yeah, that it's just a very transparent piece of plastic paper that has some sort of print or image on it. And yeah, oh yeah, well there's the pen I'm using right there. I wasn't sure if I used it for this video or not, but it was advertised to be used for vellum, so I thought, oh, this will for sure work well on shrink plastic. And the reason I use this marker pen is because, one, it has a thin tip and a bold tip. The thin tip is great for those little lines, like her eyes, coloring in the little bitty black spot in her mouth, like nostrils, like things like that. It's great for that. And then for characters like Pocahontas, one time I took forever coloring in her hair when I initially did it with colored pencil. And then with the colored pencil, you got pencil shavings all over the place. So whenever I would brush away some of the extra pencil shavings that were coming off as I was coloring in Pocahontas' hair, little specks of black would get pushed into maybe parts of her skin or other parts like of her outfit, the tan looking outfit. And once it gets in there, you cannot get it out. And if you try, you're only going to smear it more. And whenever you shrink the shrink plastic, you are only going to darken the colors. The colors get maybe slightly darker, a shade darker in the heat of the shrink plastic. And it's not every color, it's not every brand of colored pencil. I find it does it more with colored pencils. I mean, with colored pencils, with Crayola colored pencils, but don't quote me on that. And so yeah, that was a huge problem for me, especially when doing characters with like lighter skin tones, or like her outfit is white, and had I used like a black pencil and then tried to brush it away, and a teeny tiny dot of black might smear on her outfit, once you shrink that, you're gonna notice it big time. And yeah, I couldn't stand that, so I knew that I had to do something else. So I eventually found that marker and then started using that, and I've been using that ever since. So yeah, like I said, I'll occasionally use a colored pencil, but for the most part I much prefer the marker. And then another tip with the marker, or with any darker colors that you're going to use, do the dark colors last. That way, if there's any little shavings or things coming off of it, you've already got your white stuff and stuff colored in, so you're not accidentally just smearing a black speck onto like her white shirt, if that makes sense. Yeah, and then if you're going to use the pen like I do, use the pen last. So since I was already done with her face, I did the outlines on her eyes last. That way my hand wouldn't accidentally go over it and smear the ink, because the ink does stay wet basically until you shrink it or like let it air dry for like a day or two. I actually let this one air dry just because I wasn't going to continue working on it that much longer, but okay, I'm just not doing anything in this clip. But yeah, so once you get to the end of your piece, I like to take it off of the thing I'm tracing over, so off of the drawing, and I just like to see if there's any outlines that I maybe didn't outline or any parts that weren't filled in properly. Maybe I left a little gap in her hair that I didn't notice because her hair is colored in brown, and so like the brown over brown, for example, I wouldn't have seen it. So it's good to take it off occasionally, hold it up to the light, you'll be able to see for real like the specks that you missed and stuff like that. And as with all of my pieces, I just cut it out, shrink it, use resin and glitter, and I'm gonna have a whole video on how I shrink my pieces and on how I resin them and add the glitter and stuff. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions, please list them in the comments. I will be listing the materials that I use in the description box. I'm not talking about the materials during the video very much, or like showing you specifically this is what I use, this is what I use, because I'm gonna have a whole separate video on that. Over the past couple of years, I haven't really changed much in how I create my shrink plastic pieces, and so I decided I'll just do one video where I'm talking about all of the supplies that I use, only the supplies that I use, not supplies that you could use that I don't really like, just everything I use, and that way I can just direct people to that video if they do have any questions. And yeah, so that's why I'm not really talking about it in the video. I'm just kind of explaining what I'm doing, but not really going into the brands and stuff like that. But it will be listed in the description box just in case anybody has any questions. Alright you guys, but that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time.